A writer writes what they know. So how is this supposed to fit in with purpose and perspective? I am going to tell you about that. First of all, when you know better, you do better. When we know the author, we do better understanding the meaning behind the book and what they're trying to tell us. And that is the most important part we can get from knowing the author. Let me give you an aha moment. Just this last semester, I had a group of students that I was working in, 6th grade students, who struggled with reading. They did not like it. They didn't find the AR experience very well. So I grabbed them all and we read a novella called Stone Fox by John Reynolds Gardner. Here, the first thing we did was go through the background of the author. John Reynolds Gardner absolutely hated to read. He did not actually read a whole book by himself till he was 19 years old. He absolutely hated to write. He did not decide to start writing on his own till he was 22. So here, our students connected immediately with this author because they too hated to read and write. Then we learned that John Reynolds came up with this as an idea in Idaho. Here I am in Idaho with these students. Another connection that they made that made them enjoy the book more. All right, I just wrote down some more ideas about reading using the author. Okay, we read to become better readers. That is something that has to be just learned. Whether your students hate to read, then let's read together. Writing. The students that I worked with in that 6th grade group hated to write. But when they knew the story of Gardner, I gave them an assignment at the end of the book to write a 1.5 page summary of the book and what impressed them. They all finished it that same day, and that is incredible. When some of you know, 6th graders alone, just to make them do something like that is hard. To get students who hate to read and write to do that was incredible, but they felt that connection through the whole story because they knew the author. Discuss the author as a group along with books they have written. This is an idea that I came up with, and I can't wait to do this with my own classroom. I'm going to choose an author, like, for example, Steinbeck, who has many stories. Allow my students to choose what book they want to read. They can read them in their groups, and in the end, we will discuss the books, what connections they have with the author and the author's background. There's so much to learn that way. I can't wait to pick the mind of that author. It will be super exciting. Okay, 4 and 5 kind of go together. Find the time to fit in authors here and there in curriculum. Sometimes we forget it's as easy as looking up an article of someone important that these students can look at. Maybe they fall in love with the article and go on to read one of the other novels they've written. Making a connection across the curriculum. I don't care if you're teaching math, science, history. There is a connection that can be made with an author that can get other people to do some more. An example of this, in my junior year of high school, I had a teacher who did a Holocaust literature class. During the same time in history, we were going through World War II. So you can imagine the connections that were made that way. Because, of course, most of the Holocaust lit was written by people who had experienced the Holocaust. So the connection was so deep and strong, I still remember many of the things that we've learned, just because I was able to connect both of those two classes together. It was incredible. All right. How does one fit author and purpose? It's as easy as pie, people. Persuade, inform, and entertain. I'm going to give you an example. I just read a graphic novel I was looking at to sing about reading in one of my classes called Persepolis by, I'm going to ruin this, but Marjane Satrapi. This is her own story of when she lived in Iran during the late 1970s up to the early 1980s. We here in Idaho don't understand the Iran and Iraq things, especially even just my age as a 30-year-old. This is a story that was entertaining because it was a graphic novel, but it was informative. This author was trying to teach us something. It was supposed to teach us about the culture and how it changed and went from bad to worse. Incredible book. You will have to read it. Down here, oh, it's hiding, but I have a little connection to a video to talk about purpose more if you want to know more. Okay, where the perspective matters. Down here, the author's point of view video if you want to know more of what you can do in your own classroom if you'd like that. That explains it better. But I'm going to read the example. Understanding the author's perspective helps you read analytically in order to identify the validity and information contained in the text. Try to identify words and phrases that show an author's strong feelings for or against a person's group or issue. Again, Persepolis, amazing job. The author was great at making these cartoons, but she put in her strong feelings as she went and her perspective on how the government was controlling them way too much. I put down another idea of something that you might want to use. Mary Shelley and Frankenstein, people don't know this, but that story is Mary Shelley's life. This example right here, if you ever want to use it, it's a teacher explaining it. She does a great job going back and forth through her life and going from the author's perspective and background and how she used it in the novel. So, conclusion. Reading is our superpower. It doesn't matter if you're an English language arts teacher or anything else. We all have that superpower and we can all pass it on to our kids.